Okay, you have me for a little bit longer, and we're going to shift gears a little bit now. And as much as today is about celebrating and recognizing our history and our past and the amazing people, right, that have built the foundation to what it is today, I now want to direct our attention to the present and the future. You know, what's clear to me is that our focus as an organization, our mission, and our dedication to this community remains the same as it was when Woolsey started this organization. And as much as I am inspired by the history, I want to talk to you today about what is motivating me, what is motivating our team, our board, and this organization as we move forward. You know, the growth and the evolution of our work, that will continue, but right now, we are dealing with some significant challenges that this community is facing, significant needs. And I think it's easy to talk about the pandemic, right? I mean, the pandemic, it was horrible on so many levels. And I think we know, okay, what's gonna happen as a result of the pandemic? How are things? But what I wanna kind of reframe a little bit around that idea is that there were needs and challenges that existed before the pandemic, right? And I think what the pandemic has done in a lot of ways, it's to amplify those needs and challenges. It's going to exacerbate those needs and challenges. But again, they existed. They existed before. And so, as many of you know, we launched Impact MetroWest in January of 2020, again, right before the pandemic. And for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it is an initiative of the foundation that tracks over 60 data points. And that data helps to inform decision making. And just a quick plug about Impact MetroWest. We are about to refresh the data, and we'll relaunch the website in a couple months, so look out for that. But this data indicators website has an analysis built in, right? So that anyone can understand, what is this data telling us? And it was intended to be a resource and a gift to our community. For our nonprofit partners, it was a tool they could use to better tell their story. For our corporate partners and our donors, it was a tool that they could use. Hey, they could identify, what are the needs? How can I maximize my impact, right, with my giving? And for municipalities and for anyone that just wanted to learn, you know, how is my community doing? What's going on? What are those needs and challenges? And so, but the intention of the data was also to help inform us, right? Help us as an organization focus our efforts, right? What is the data telling us? You know, what are our community conversations telling us? You know, what can we do? Where should we focus? Where should we dedicate more of our time, our energy, and our resources? So the pandemic, obviously, it paused that approach, right? We were about to jump into it. We were really gonna, hey, we're gonna do some great things with Impact MetroWest. The pandemic hits. All we're doing for the last couple of years is focused on pandemic relief. And of course, that was incredibly important, and we're proud. We're proud of the role that we got to play. But as I said before, the needs and challenges existed before, and they continue. And so now, it has led us down this path with, you know, for a renewed approach. And it's an approach for us to take action around few issues that we've now identified that where we should focus. And so we're referring to this new initiative as our action projects because we're going to translate the data into action. And we've identified, again, some priority needs that we think we need to focus, what we need to focus on. So we want to take this role that we play as a community foundation, and we want to take it to another level. We have relationships and partnerships with our nonprofit community. We have access and relationships with donors and funders. So let's activate these partnerships in a way that allows us to take immediate action. So the first action project that we launched is in collaboration with an amazing corporate partner, MathWorks. Gino Keefe, Jackie Cristiano, Craig Santos, thank you for your partnership. But together, we are directing resources to address educational disparities that exist in our region. And we're actually going to specifically focus on Framingham for now. And I'm going to tell you why in a second. So in 2021, last year, if you look at the third grade reading proficiency test scores in Framingham, 35%, 35% of third graders in Framingham are proficient in reading. 35, 1 out of 3. And if you dig a little deeper, 20% of economically disadvantaged youth, 20%, 1 out of 5 are proficient. 23% of Hispanic Latinx youth in Framingham are proficient, 1 out of 4. That's unacceptable. And we can overanalyze it a bit. We can talk about the challenges of MCAS, right? You hear that a lot. We can talk about English as a second language. Yeah, those are all impacts as it relates to those data sets. But I don't care. Any way you slice it, those numbers are absolutely disgraceful. It's unacceptable. So what is the action? What are we going to do now to address this challenge? We quickly identified a really amazing evidence-based nonprofit in Boston called Literations. And then we partnered that organization that does in-school tutoring with a really great Framingham nonprofit organization, Jewish Family Service of MetroWest. And they've been doing great work in the schools already. So we thought, hey, let's bring these two together. And we've launched a pilot in 2 Framingham elementary schools, just started in January. We're working with 50 students, K through 3 students, to try to get them on a different path. And it doesn't end there. That's 50 students. That's a drop in the bucket. We want to get to 100 students. We want to get to 200 students. We want to get more than 200 students in Framingham because so many of these young people need our support. And it doesn't stop there. Because if you look at 3 other communities in our region, Waltham, Milford, and Marlborough, under 50% of students in those school districts are proficient. So that means more than half of kids in those communities are not proficient in reading by 3rd grade. It's shocking. And I tell this story a lot, in terms of, it's sort of personal to me in a way. I live in Sherburne. So my children go to Pine Hill Elementary School in Sherburne. Last time they did MCAS test scores in 2021 for Sherburne, over 86% of the kids in Sherburne are proficient in reading. If you go 2.5 miles and you cross the border from Sherburne into Framingham, there's an elementary school, Harmony Grove Elementary. Used to be called Woodrow Wilson Elementary. 9% of kids in Harmony Grove are proficient. 2.5 miles away from my children's school, 85 to 9. I don't think you can find a larger disparity in this country of 2 elementary schools that are that close to each other. It's unacceptable. And so we are taking action. We're partnering with MathWorks. We need others to join us as we continue to address this disgraceful disparity that exists. The next action project that we are going to take on and that we think is important is around workforce development. So this has become a bit of a hot topic over the last few years. The governor is kind of jumping in, and he's got some legislation, there's some dollars, there's some more potential resources and support to look at workforce development. A lot of philanthropic organizations are jumping into this space. But for us, we have Impact MetroWest, and we have data. And we have some data points that really stood out to us about kind of what's going on here. So the first one I'm going to talk about is median income level. So median income for white residents in the Metro West is about $92,000. For Asian American families, it's a little over $100,000. For African American families in our region, the median income is $59,000. And for Hispanic Latinx families, $52,000. Pretty big disparity. And then cost of living in this region for a family of 4 is about $80,000. The next data set I want to talk about is home ownership rates. So I think we all know, right? How do you build wealth, building assets? Home ownership is really important step in that regard. For white residents in our region, almost 70% own a home. For our black residents, 35%. And for Hispanic Latinx residents, 31% own a home. Percent of people living in poverty. It's another interesting data set. Poverty is actually defined in our region, $24,000 annual salary for a family of 4. $24,000. 22% of Hispanic Latinx residents in our community live in poverty. 16% of African American residents live in poverty. 7% of our white residents live in poverty. And actually, 11% of Asians in this region live in poverty. It's actually a little bit of a hidden issue. The Boston Globe did an article about this recently, but there are a significant number of low-income Asian Americans in our region and in our state. Okay, the last one I want to talk about is the percent of residents that are unbanked or underbanked. We have a lot of bankers in the room, I know. Meaning someone that does not have a checking or savings account, or they use an alternative method of banking. So for Black residents, almost half are underbanked or unbanked. 40% of Hispanic Latinx residents are unbanked or underbanked, compared to 17% for white and 20% for Asian. So I think you get the picture, right? And when you start to connect the dots, it is pretty clear that many within our communities of color are struggling. They are not making the income they need to sustain their families. And so as we've delved into this issue, we've been talking to a lot of people, a lot of experts, people who are really engaged in this issue, and unequivocally we heard that help is needed to move the needle on this issue. It's desperately needed. Now, as I referenced before, there are more resources, coming into this space, but what we've heard and what we've learned is a lot of those resources are very difficult to actually access. They're very complicated. It's very difficult to get your hands on those dollars, and a lot of those are infrastructure related. And that's important, there's no question. But what we heard clearly is that programmatic support is also needed to move the needle to help families get into a better situation. So our theme for these action projects is really, it's simplicity, right? Let's identify the needs, let's get the right partners around the table, and then let's get the dollars to the people who can actually do something, right, about these issues. And so we've identified the needs. I just shared them with you, with those data sets, which are unfortunate and shocking. We have great collaborative partners, such as Middlesex Savings Bank, who've already committed $250,000 as a corporate match to any new business that wants to join this effort. And we have nonprofits and partnerships that we know we're about to activate that can do some really, really great things. So in this workforce space, we are really, really close to launching a couple partnerships that will, as an example, give opportunities to 50 or more lower income residents to become certified nursing assistants. We desperately need more certified nursing assistants. I think everyone knows that. Or Waltham and Framingham students having opportunities to jump into a life sciences career as lab techs. We have a lot of life sciences companies in this region, and that career path is a really, really great one. So we're really gonna figure out how do we get more Framingham and Waltham students down that path. And then looking at providing opportunities for kids of color in our region to look at some building trades, right? I think we all know we're gonna need some plumbers and electricians down the road. I think we're already having a hard time finding them, but that's another great career path that we should look at. So we have some things in motion, and I think we're ready to take action. And I think it's important to note that we are not naive, right? We fully understand that there are serious systemic issues that exist, right? Why do we have these disparities? And we don't have the resources necessarily to address those systemic issues. But we are committed to staying engaged in that conversation because we know it's important. We have to unpack those issues. We have to figure out how to change it at that level. But in the meantime, we know that we can't just sit idly by and just do nothing, because the data is telling us kids can't read and people don't have access to jobs that allow them to sustain their families. We can't just sit around and do nothing. We have to do something. So we are embracing this role as, serving as a catalyst and a convener. We know we have access to folks who want to give and want to make a difference. We know nonprofit organizations that are ready to take action and do great work right now. So we're going to do it. It's not rocket science, right? And the people that we're going to help, there's going to be a huge impact on the people that we can help. So at the foundation, we continue to be inspired by the past, but we are extremely motivated by the challenges that we know exist. And we are going to take action. The legacy of our founders, of our key supporters, of Judy Salerno, that legacy of inspiration to impact lives on. And we hope that all of you in this room will continue to stand with us, or join us, or please encourage others to join us, because we can't do this alone. We need your help. And if we are going to change people's lives, we need more people to come to the table and join us and do this work together. Thank you very much for joining us today. It's been a wonderful event, and thank you. I can't thank you enough.